And welcome into the Fantasy 4-Packs Week 4 Countdown Show Part 2. I'm your host, Ian Power, joined as always by Matt Vitale and Frankie Santiago, breaking down the second half of this Week 4 slate for you guys. If you haven't watched the previous episode, which aired yesterday, we broke down the first 8 games on this slate, stopping with the Cleveland Browns and the Minnesota Vikings. So go check that out. Obviously, the Bengals breakdown will not help you at this point, as that game has ended.
It'll be up there.
But the other ones will, so good to watch. But we're gonna launch into the second part of this slate here, starting off with the Washington football team going to visit the Atlanta Falcons. They are 1-point home dogs in this one, in what is a 47.5-point total here. This is a bit of a confusing spot for me. I've been looking at this matchup a bunch because obviously there's a bunch of fantasy relevant players in this, trying to decipher, read the tea leaves as it is, trying to decipher what's going to happen in this game. But on one hand, you have the Washington football team. Ryan Fitzpatrick is done for the ever. Their defense does not look anywhere near as good as we were expecting it to, based on how it looked last season. They're getting Curtis Samuel back potentially this week. I know he's activated from IR. We'll see if he's healthy to go. So they should be at least a decent team on paper, but they've struggled, especially on the on letting up points. The Atlanta Falcons, on the other hand, haven't done anything well. The offense looked bad. The defense looked bad. So I'm sure special teams looks bad if I cared to commit any of those plays to memory. I think we can safely say you're not starting the quarterbacks in anything other than DFS this week, right? I mean, Matt Ryan's 5,400, so I think he's a fine DFS play against this Washington team. But neither of them are in play for you guys in redraft, right?
No, definitely not. I looked at Matt Ryan just a little bit, but the Washington front seven's the one bright spot on this defense, and I feel like they're just going to be able to run right through this porous O-line that the Falcons have.
Sure. Running backs, what should be a fairly easy spot to identify who you're playing, who you're not. Obviously, if the Falcons have had some confusion in their backfield as of late, Cordaro Patterson's been taking up more of a role there. Mike Davis has looked terrible, as we were preaching all offseason. On the other side of the ball, Antonio Gibson just came down with a shin today in practice. Generally, injuries on a Thursday aren't great for your availability over the weekend. Obviously, if Antonio Gibson's healthy, you're playing him. If he's banged up, how confident do you guys feel in his production, though? Like if he's let's say he's a game time decision, they don't log him as healthy going into the weekend.
This is definitely one I've got to look at as far as what the actual injury is. It's a shin, so this might just be a pain management kind of thing, which if that's all it is, then I think I'm comfortable going out with him. But for me, overall, it's if Antonio Gibson plays, especially against a bad Atlanta team, I think I got to play him. I feel like you have to. Him and McKissick.
I was going to say, do you guys start McKissick here if Gibson's out?
I mean, I think McKissick is in play one way or the other. Gibson hasn't been the bell cow this season, and this Falcons team gives up points. So if you need a flex, McKissick is an option for me.
Sure.
What do you guys do with Cordaro Patterson and Mike Davis? Are you starting one of them? Are you starting both of them? Or are you starting neither of them?
Mike Davis is just a no.
Okay, I can understand that.
Just no. They don't. Washington does not give enough points to the running back position for me to trust him. And Cordaro Patterson basically has to get his points through the air. So he's like a low end flex for me, I guess, mid to low at best.
Okay, I can't really dispute that. Wide receiver room, pretty straightforward. You start Ridley, you start McLaurin. That's kind of it. I think if Curtis Samuel plays this weekend, maybe you can roll him out there. But guys rolling off the IR, you don't typically want to trust them week one because they're going to take some time to get back in football shape. So are you guys in the same boat as me there? Just Ridley, McLaurin, stop?
Yeah. I mean, at the very best, I think Samuel would end up being just a flex play for me.
Sure. And then obviously you're starting Kyle Pitts and Logan Thomas because tight end puke. We could honestly probably never talk about tight end and nothing would change because most tight ends are just like, yeah, I guess you start them.
Yeah, I feel like that's how a lot of our tight end conversations go.
Well, it's because there's like 4 usable tight ends in the league, and then everyone else is like, I guess. All right, let's get off of this gross matchup and onto one that is a little more exciting in my opinion. The Indianapolis Colts are going to face the Miami Dolphins. It's a pretty low total in this game. Only 42 points expected to be scored. The Dolphins are 2-point home favorites here. I think this one is going to be a good barometer for what we can expect, at least from some Colts players here. The Dolphins defense is still middle of the road. They've looked okay so far in this season. We can just say we're not, like the last matchup, we're not starting either quarterback, not in a 42-point total. But I think this could be a big Jonathan Taylor game potentially. The Dolphins are weaker against the run than they are against the pass. Jonathan Taylor has to break out eventually, hypothetically. Is he you guys' favorite play in this matchup, if you had to pick one?
If he plays, because he was limited in practice today. I don't remember seeing how serious it was, but again, I guess this is kind of like Gibson, where if he's limited on a Thursday,
it's different being limited on a Thursday though, and having a new injury pop up on a Thursday.
Yeah. So I mean, if he's good to go, I have no qualms rolling him out there. He should be good. I'm looking at his report right here. Taylor was limited with a knee again today, same as yesterday. He is expected to be a full go this weekend. Yeah, then he is smash points.
Yeah, I want Taylor to really break out here. It's like I said, this is still a solid.
Because selfishly, you just traded for him.
There's absolutely no ulterior motive. But no, like he needs to break out to really pay off that first round value that people were going for. And I mean, we were putting him there. Like we felt that was a solid place for him to go. So he's got to finally pay out for managers. Nahim Heinz is another start here. I like Kenyon Drake now. Not Kenyon Drake. Myles Gaskin.
If you were capable of starting Kenyon Drake in this matchup, I would be a little confused, but also impressed.
Yeah.
So, because you mentioned that Hines you think is a good start in this one. You aren't concerned about his fluctuating target volume? I mean, he had 8 in week 1, 2 in week 2, 6 in week 3. He's been very up and down.
Yeah. I mean,
and like that's where he's been getting all of his value too. He's been doing almost nothing on the ground, which is likely what this game script is going to be.
Yeah, I mean the Colts as a whole, week 2 wasn't great for them. He just has a nose for the end zone, which, to the chagrin of those that are rostering Taylor, but down by the end zone, he can really make some hay there. And I expect him to be in that more 6 to 8 target range with the fact that they're so depleted right now at receiver. It's basically
given that he's their wide receiver too.
Yeah.
Speaking of wide receivers here. Obviously, you start Michael Pittman. It's not a great matchup. The Dolphins are 12th against wide receivers, but with the volume Michael Pittman's been seeing, you don't sit him here. The Dolphins receivers are kind of a mess. Jalen Waddle saw a bucket of targets last week, but he only had an average yards per catch. I think it was like 4.8. So like he had a bucket of targets, but they were all within like 5 yards of the line of scrimmage. Devontae Parker didn't really do much last week. Will Fuller is obviously injured. I think Will Fuller is clearly a sit for me. So it's down to just Parker and Waddle. What are you guys doing with these players in this matchup? The Colts are susceptible against the pass.
So for me,
24th against wide receivers.
I'm not looking. Obviously I'm looking for the touchdowns, but just based on the receptions and yardage we're going to talk about tight end in a second, but I feel like it's going to be the same conversation we always have, like we were just talking about.
No, there's some tight ends in this one that I would just flat out say you don't start.
Yep.
But Waddle and Gesicki in this offense have pretty much been the target hogs, and just based on the buckets of targets they're getting alone, if you start Waddle in the flex, which is probably where he is if you drafted him where he should have been drafted. You're looking at, if he gets a touchdown, 50 yards, 10 receptions.
So game script wise, you guys aren't worried about, because obviously the Dolphins aren't going to be passing anywhere near as much as they did last week. You guys aren't worried that in a game where Jacoby Brissett might throw 22 times, that Jalen Waddle and Gesicki aren't going to have the targets they had last week, and that without the 12, 13 targets they were getting, they're not going to be able to get to a respectable fantasy total, because like Waddle only scored like 10 points last week in half point. Gesicki only scored 13. That was with all of their targets and catches.
Yeah. No, I am definitely worried about that. Like, Gesicki by no means is like a smash start for me, and Waddle is probably in the same area as flex quality as Cordaro Patterson for me.
Sure.
Like the lower end, but clearly the Jacoby throws short, so the guys who make their hay off of those short targets are the guys I'd rather start here.
Okay. And then at tight end, obviously we just talked about it a little bit, but you're starting Gesicki. You are sitting all Colts tight ends. Cool.
Yep.
Anyway, on to better matchups here. Arizona Cardinals are going to visit the Los Angeles Rams in what should be a pretty fun divisional game between these two teams. 54.5 point total in this one. Rams are 3.5 point home favorites here. I'm okay with us just saying that both of these quarterbacks are must starts, although I know that Stafford, is someone you at least can hypothetically stream over. Kyler, if you sit him on your bench, you're insane. What are we doing with the running back room here? Obviously, the Cardinals have a maddeningly frustrating running back room so far this year. Chase Edmonds has not been the bell cow like everyone was predicting. It's almost a 50-50 split as far as usage goes between Chase Edmonds and James Conner on the ground. Edmonds has been sort of the guy through the air, but it hasn't really amounted to fantasy success for him. Who, if either, are you starting from that Cardinals side of the ball on the ground?
I'm comfortable rolling out Chase just because, like I said, running back is shallow. He at least sees around 10 carries and enough targets to push him into that 15 touches per game, which is what you're looking for a 2 or a flex. Connor, if you're shallow, I mean, like I said, if the Cardinals get ahead or the running game script leans that way, that's where Connor makes his hay because he needs to do it on the ground. So I'm a little bit more leery on Connor just because he doesn't get the passing volume that you want to see. But he's at least the goal line back, and I'm fine rolling him out there as a flex if you need it.
Yeah, I'm kind of the opposite way on Connor for the same reason. If the Rams get up, I don't think they're going to be doing enough work on the ground to warrant him as a start.
Sure. Rams side of the ball, Sony Michel obviously looked, maybe great's not the word, but looked pretty good against a world beater run defense in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers last week. Daryl Henderson is still limited in practice with his rib cartilage injury. What are we doing here? So, because unlike the previous matchups, you're starting Jonathan Taylor, you're starting Antonio Gibson, regardless of their injury status, unless they're not starting. Daryl Henderson, I think you're sinking down to a range where even if he's starting, you can still potentially sit him, especially with something like a rib cartilage injury. So what are you guys doing here with him if he starts, and if he doesn't, if he's out for this game, what are you doing with Sony Michel?
This is a tough one just because he is someone that should, Daryl Henderson at least, should be a start here in a matchup where I lean more towards the Rams being the ones to lead this game and should be able to run it out enough that he gets fantasy success. And the Cardinals are still a susceptible team. Their front sevens look great, but at the end of the day, I want whoever's the starter here. I am just, they said, this is another one I'm monitoring like a hawk to see what we're looking at come Sunday. And if he's not, like I said, if it's looking towards the more doubtful side of questionable, then I'd probably just fade him and put him on my bench and look for a better option out there. Because I could see a world where if he's too banged up that he ends up splitting work with Sony, and I don't think there's enough work for the two of them to really make hay in this game.
Sure. Wide receivers, there's a bunch of them here. Cooper Kupp, start. DeAndre Hopkins, start. Christian Kirk, start. Use your big boy words, Frankie. What is two hands horizontal on the screen
I'm
mean?
like wishy-washy with him.
Okay, well, wishy-washy isn't a stance we're allowed to take on this show, so I'll ask again. Christian Kirk, start.
I will wide receiver 3 flex him.
That's a tough one. It's for me. It's you're either starting Rondale Moore or you're starting Christian Kirk. That's kind of how I look at it. I want to lean more towards Rondale.
Well,
Moore.
boy, you wait, because there's two more wide receivers we're talking about on the Cardinals side of the ball.
I'm starting Rondale Moore, by the way, just going to get that out of the way.
Yeah, I'm probably like he's a deep flex for me, Kirk. Whereas I'm going to lean towards Rondale Moore in this game.
Robert Woods, arguably one of the biggest wide receiver busts of this season so far. We were expecting much more from Bob, and contrary to what Cooper Kupp has done, Bob has done nothing. So, Bob Woods, are you starting him or sitting him?
This is a shootout of a game. You have to start him. If he's ever going to do something, it's now.
If he doesn't do something this game, just to play a little thought exercise here, if he flops again in a 54.5 point total against a porous 20th against the wide receiver, porous Cardinals defense, are we sitting Bob Woods until further notice? Are we dropping Bob Woods?
No.
Okay, good.
I am selling him and hoping that somebody likes his name.
Do not do that. Here's the number one reason why I was thinking about that for a second. One, you're not going to get anywhere near because one, Robert Woods is already not a sexy name. People don't really pay for it.
Yeah.
Two, he's playing bad. That's like you couldn't sell him when he was doing well.
Can confirm. Yes, I've tried that before.
So the way I look at it is this: Cooper Kupp is blowing doors off right now, but we also know that Cooper Kupp is slightly injury prone. If Cooper Kupp goes down, those targets go somewhere. So I still want a piece.
Van Jefferson.
Desean Jackson.
I could always be wrong, but I feel like it's Robert Woods. Like, you have to hold on to him because he's just way too valuable, and he could just end up figuring it out. Like, he is still working with a new quarterback, but yes, if he flops in this game, he goes on your bench.
I do love that on both sides of the ball in this game, there's legitimately, because of the total, there's legitimately 4 receivers we have to talk about for both teams. Moving down the list here again, we are coming up on someone I think we're probably unanimous start, Rondale Moore.
Yeah.
I think I could see DeAndre Hopkins getting Jalen Ramsey and him just because he's already kind of banged up. Rondale Moore just benefiting from that, kind of filling in that role. So I think he is a sneaky start this week.
Yeah, I think the only reason he didn't get more last week is because of that fumble.
Yeah, he was clearly benched.
Yeah.
And it wasn't for play reasons because before that, his play was pretty good. All right, so we're all a start for Rondale Moore. What about the oldest receiver in football, it feels like, A.J. Green? A.J. Green's been good.
What was his targets?
6, 6, and 6.
That's unlucky.
And he's caught in order 2, 3, and then 5 last week.
I'm sitting him. Yeah. This is a game, like I said, I lean more towards the Rams here, their receivers. If the Rams are going to be able to shut down, like, if someone's going to get shut down and their offense is going to is disappointing this weekend, it's the Cardinals. Because the Rams offense is just as good, if not better, and the Cardinals defense is nowhere near the Rams defense. So for me, I'm willing to go deeper on the Rams side of the ball.
You say that, but the Rams have actually been worse against wide receivers so far this season than the Cardinals have. Although that's probably a little bit skewed because they played against Tom Brady.
Yes, and the Cardinals did just play the Jags.
Yeah. Van Jefferson. I feel like these next 2 we can just talk about at the same time. Van Jefferson, Desean Jackson. What are we doing with them in this game? Obviously, they're both kind of just like big play, 100 or 0 type players. Are you rolling out either of them and just hoping that because of the total and because of the pace of play in this game, they just catch a big one and end up in the end zone?
There are probably better people out there to stream.
But are there more fun people out there to stream?
Yes.
So I will say this.
People who will get me points.
It's an absolute no on Desean Jackson, and especially if you've played fantasy enough, you know why. Desean Jackson did it last week, so he's not doing it again this week. It's time for him to go back to being a ghost until 3 weeks.
He did have 0 targets in week 2.
Like, he is going to ghost again, like he always does, because he's old and he's so deep on this team, and that's just what Desean Jackson does regardless of where he is on the depth chart. So, like, he's going to ghost you for 3 weeks. You're going to completely give up on him. You're going to drop him, and then he's going to drop like 40 points. I'd rather go with the young guy in this one, and this is like a Hail Mary flex or a Hail Mary third wide receiver 3. You have some solid guys out there. You really need a win. You're 0-3. sometimes you got to roll the dice, especially if
this is like your 1 p.m. shit the bed, and you're like, you know what? I need some points. Van Jefferson, catch 2 long ones in the end zone for me.
Yeah.
Okay. And then at tight end, you're starting no one on the Cardinals, and you're starting Higbee, correct?
Yep.
Cool. Let's jump to the next game on the slate here. Then the Seattle Seahawks are going to visit the San Francisco 49ers in a 51.5 point total here. The 49ers are 3-point home favorites. They have their 18 running back carousel that they're going to be rolling out. I assume at this point they're just stitching new running backs together in the locker room a la Frankenstein, just hoping that their doctors can piece together a working running back. I kind of want to just start off with the running backs here in this game because I'm curious where you guys are at with this running back room. Seattle is very straightforward, no thought at all. Chris Carson, you do not sit him. On the 49ers side of the ball, I'm just going to go down the list and then I'll kick it to you guys. Elijah Mitchell was limited at practice. There's a chance he plays this week. Trey Sermon obviously was out there last week. He is not currently carrying an injury designation. Trenton Cannon was out there last week. He is not currently carrying an injury designation. And then obviously they have Kerryon Johnson and Jacques Patrick and is that Travis Homer? No, he's on Seattle. But they have the other 3 or 4 guys behind them that are still technically there but not really in play. If Elijah Mitchell is out there again this week though, are you guys worried that it's still his job to lose? I mean, Trey Sermon didn't look fantastic last week.
Yeah, that's basically where I'm at. It's good that, he is getting those limited sessions because it looks like they're kind of just hoping to push him out there. I'm not expecting him to, if he goes out there, have a great week, but if you can get some, if he can get run to the end zone, get the bulk of the carries, I think that I'm comfortable with the amount of points I'm going to get out of him if he's out there.
So for me, when I look at this running back room, it's Elijah Mitchell or nothing, just because we saw what last week looked like when they tried to go with Trey Sermon. It wasn't great, 3.1 on the ground. And Elijah Mitchell has just dominated the carries when he's out there. So if he plays, I start him. If he doesn't play, I abandon this running back room.
Yeah, I'm in that same boat. Trey Sermon was clearly not the guy when Elijah Mitchell was healthy, and he didn't win the job. So I do expect this to at least go back to Elijah Mitchell have a chance to maintain his starting role. And if he flops, then who knows? But add your Jeff Wilsons now because he's coming back eventually, and then he's going to be in the mix too, and we're all going to cry a lot.
Yep.
No. Wide receivers in this one. Okay, so DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett are both questionable. DK, I believe, is expected to play from what I can tell. He was added to the injury report today with a foot issue, but from what I can tell from looking at the news, it doesn't seem to be expected to be serious. So it sounds like DK is still expected to be out there, that he might be a little bit limited. Lockett, on the other hand, he was limited yesterday. He was held out of practice today. So he's trending in the wrong direction. What are you guys doing with? Because I don't think there's anyone after those guys on Seattle in their passing attack that you start. What are you guys doing with Lockett and Metcalf this week? Given that they're both, and let's assume for now that they're playing. What are we doing with them here?
If they're playing, I start Metcalf easy. Lockett's a little more. I mean, we know what type of receiver he is. He's the gadget guy and he's the big play guy. If he is going to be going into this game coming off of an injury or with a lingering injury, I'm probably looking for, a high-end flex play maybe to sub in for him, whether it be running back or a tight end or wide receiver. Again, this is, looking at Christian Kirk is a guy I would probably play over Lockett this week if he's going in there with an injury.
I don't like Lockett. He's playing a lot, but at the end of the day, I think you kind of have he should at least be a wide receiver 3. Like the problem is like he's playing so well and he's playing so much that even him injured, it at least just drops him down to a 3 for me.
So you play him if he's healthy?
If he goes out there and it's not like, if it doesn't sound like doom and gloom on Sunday, I'm starting him almost regardless of anything. Where I think this gets interesting is the tight ends.
So, real fast before we jump to the San Francisco side of the ball and then the tight ends, do you start Freddie Swain if Tyler Lockett is not able to go? He hasn't been heavily involved, but the Seahawks haven't been passing a lot. Obviously, I think he has to step up somewhat, at least if Lockett is down. Do you give him flex consideration if there's no Lockett?
No, mainly because he was out there for 85% of the snaps and only still got 2 targets. So clearly, it's Russell Wilson has a 2 receiver, whoever they are. 2 people catch his balls. As bad as that sounds.
Sure.
2 people catch his passes, and when he chooses those 2, that's who it is. He doesn't deviate.
49ers side of the ball, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, both of them should be in your lineups this coming week. It's a high total game. Brandon Ayuk went right back to being used like we expected him to be used last week, in for 84% of the snaps. Caught a touchdown in that one. Deebo Samuel is obviously a stud. Trent Sherfield went back to being what we expected of him. 0 targets, 0 catches, 0 yards. Your time in the sun was too long.
I just love that he got bullied into playing Ayuk.
Yep.
So you guys are on the same page as me here,
Yeah.
where obviously Deebo's a start, but you play Ayuk in this one as well,
Yeah,
right?
100%.
Cool. Let's jump to tight ends here then. George Kittle.
Maybe.
George Kittle is out. He's. I think this is just veteran rest, but he said he had a calf after last week. I don't expect it to limit his production at all. He was still very, very, very good for fantasy last week. He should be good again this week.
Yes.
Obviously, if he does not play, you do not start him. But as of right now, he's expected to play. Gerald Everett is on the COVID list. He was placed on it on Wednesday. When we saw Antonio Brown go on the COVID list on Wednesday last week in the very similar situation, he did not play. I am not currently expecting Gerald Everett to play. So, do you start Will Dissly in this one?
I'm gonna lean towards yes. Like I said, Gerald Everett's the start here for me, hands down. If he gets out there, if he is held out due to COVID, which we haven't heard anything today about him having a pass, because he needs to pass 2 tests within 24 hours apart.
Yeah.
Two passes of negative COVID.
Time is running short.
Yeah. So we haven't heard about anything yet. So it means probably he didn't pass one today. I'm leaning towards him being out. So yeah, Will Dissly, we saw before that him and Russell Wilson can gel. It's just now that if he can go out there and kind of fill in for what Lockett's missing, I think he's a good play.
Kind of strange defensive pick here, but I'm curious what you guys' thoughts are. Let's say that let's say DK Metcalf is hobbled and Tyler Lockett is out. Do you guys start the 49ers defense against the Seahawks? Missing one. So, and in this scenario, obviously Gerald Everett is on the COVID list because he's probably going to be on the COVID list. So they're missing 2 of their top 3 options, and the only one they have is hobbled. Do you give the 49ers defense a shot in this one?
Nope.
I thought about it. Like you said, there's some reasoning there, but I'm going to go with no. They haven't looked like a top-tier defense yet this year. They gave up 33 points to the Lions, and sure, they only gave up 11 to Philly, but they still gave up 328 yards of offense. They've been just consistently giving up 3. That was their lowest total. Otherwise, they're just giving up yards, gangbuster style. And on top of that, they're not really doing much. Like they're getting a few sacks, but they said they got 3 sacks against Detroit. Seattle has I look at this game. If you look at Philly, I feel like that's what we're looking at here.
Yeah.
Seattle is just a much better version of Philly. So I think Russell Wilson is skilled enough to keep his team from turning the ball over. He's a very efficient quarterback.
Yeah.
I don't think there's enough here to really warrant their start.
Sure. Pittsburgh Steelers are going to visit Lambeau Field this week in a 45.5-point total. The Packers are 6.5-point home favorites here. Sounds like the Steelers are getting Deontay Johnson back, so there's some good news on their side of the ball. Sadly, Big Ben is still there, so not much you can do about that. Maybe he falls over and retires. But unlikely to happen mid-game. I kind of feel like this is going to be a bad game for fantasy. Let me rephrase that. I feel like this is going to be a bad game for fantasy on one side of the ball. Because I think the Packers are just going to rip the Steelers' face off in this game. Are there... The Packers, you're starting your obvious ones. Maybe you start MVS, but there's not a lot to talk about the Packers because of how concise they keep their targetry. All of their options are either studs or unrostered.
Studs or duds.
Yes. So let's just talk about the Steelers here. Najee, you're probably starting, unfortunately. Deontay, if he's healthy this week, or healthy, because obviously he was week to week last week. So even if he goes back out there, it's safe to assume he's probably still banged up. Deontay Johnson, is he back in your lineup this week if he's back in the game?
I think for me, he has to be because of the target, tree that he commands, or I guess the share of the target tree that he commands. And also, he's probably going to draw Kevin King, and, I hate Kevin King.
So you don't expect Deontay to have Jair Alexander?
Actually, yeah.
He is the best receiver on the team.
Maybe. It depends what the wide receiver matchup looks like.
So, I could see Claypool drawing Jair just because he's the X receiver more than Deontay is. And I think it's just easy to take that away and force Big Ben to do what he's been doing and just stay short. So I think Deontay is he's a reluctant start where you took him, the depth he might not have. He's a wide receiver 3 for me with upside. But man, Big Ben has just looked worse than a shell. Like a shell.
So real fast, just to give you a quick update, because I just pulled up the expected matchup chart here. Eric Stokes is expected to be on Deontay Johnson. Jair Alexander is expected to draw Chase Claypool, and Chandon Sullivan is going to be on Juju Smith-Schuster.
Yeah, like you said, I kind of expected that. Claypool is one of their few healthy receivers. He's one of their their only down the field target if Ben can even make it that far. And Deontay is just like his safety blanket, so I think that's gonna garner him a reason to at least be started. Claypool, I feel like people might get lulled into right now the sleeper has him with 12.5 fantasy points. I think that's grossly over what he's gonna get.
He might get 1.2.
Like on top of that, Big Ben 20.6. Like where do they think these points are coming from?
2017.
I mean, it's like I don't even blame Ben for this at this point. It's like Ben was washed, but he wanted to come back from this. But the staff should have shouldn't have resigned him. And 2, at this point, Mike Tomlin, if he is the great coach he should be benching him.
I mean, we've talked this in private and I think on the show. While I don't disparage Tomlin at all, I don't want to discount what he's done as a head coach. He is more of a basketball head coach than a football head coach. He's a people guy. He just keeps everyone happy in the locker room, and one of his greatest talents has been managing egos, like having Le'Veon Bell and Antonio Brown in the same room for multiple seasons.
Yeah.
But I don't know that he is the greatest X's and O's guy.
Yeah, you don't think he has it in him to sit the Hall of Fame quarterback?
I mean, honestly, I don't. I think he's too much of a nice guy. I think he's too much of a culture guy and a locker room guy to pull the rug out on a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Well, hopefully Aaron Rodgers can give him the bump that he needs.
Yeah, this can be a Viking funeral.
Yeah,
the Packers are going to roast marshmallows over the corpses of the Steelers.
Just literally, that would be the best outcome for the Steelers and obviously for the Packers too. Like Rodgers is on the revenge tour. Put Big Ben out of his misery so we can stop this.
So, just to give everyone a clear, concise answer here. Najee is a start. Deontay is a start.
Yes.
What about Pat Friarmuth?
I like him as a tight end streamer this week.
His targets have been going up. His usage has been going up. He's replacing Eric Ebron in the offense. He was considered I believe the second best pass catching tight end out of this draft. And he would have been the first if Kyle Pitts wasn't there, because Kyle Pitts is just Kyle Pitts.
Yeah, like yes.
He's a rookie. Rookie tight ends are not great.
Mm-hmm.
His snap percentage is abysmal.
Mm-hmm.
I will go. There's a lot other places I will go before him.
You will stream other guys over him.
Yes.
Okay.
I might go for a Colts tight end before him.
I would not. He is much more athletic than catch ball, fall down Jack Doyle.
But at least he go out and catch ball.
Defense in this game, we talked about it on the waiver show. The Packers defense is a great start this week. Big Ben looks awful. Those Packers corners are legit. This game could easily have 2 pick sixes. If the Packers defense is still out there, they should be your top defensive target of the week. Grab them, start them, go.
God, I didn't realize that Big Ben almost threw 60 times last game.
Yeah, that's so and he's so bad at throwing now. Like there's so many opportunities for Big Ben to get picked because he struggles at moving and throwing the football at the same time now. Jumping to the next matchup here, Baltimore Ravens are going to visit the Denver Broncos. Denver Broncos are 1-point home dogs here on a 44.5-point total. This is one where I think we have to do a little bit of digging, specifically in the running back room.
Yep.
Because, honestly, as surprising as it sounds, for teams like Denver and Baltimore, typically teams where it's like, hard-nosed, grind them out, run it football, we know who their receiving options are. And they're honestly reasonably good receiving options. Like, You're starting Hollywood in this one. You're starting Sammy Watkins in this one. You're starting Cortland Sutton. You're starting Noah Fant. And I'm fine starting Tim Patrick. What the hell are we doing with the running backs here? Who do you guys want to talk about first, Denver or Baltimore?
For me, I think Denver's easier.
Okay, let's break down Denver first then. Melvin Gordon and Javonte Williams are both sadly coexisting in an offense. Who, if any, do you start in this matchup?
They're both flex plays for me.
This is against the 26th against the run Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah, they're both flex plays for me. That's pretty much it. They've been splitting. Again, this kind of reminds me of Chase Edmonds and James Conner. They're both basically splitting work. I haven't looked at the numbers from last week, but
18 for 60 from Melvin Gordon, found the end zone, limited with I believe chest and leg.
Yeah,
and then Javonte Williams last week, 12 for 29, also found the end zone. So neither of them were performing well.
Yeah, this is they're basically splitting work, so it's going to be a toss up for who's going to get the touchdown. So at the very best for me, they're a flex play.
Yeah, for me, I'm probably sitting Javonte until his
Sure.
snap percentage gets a little bit better and he starts commanding this
Backfield.
his backfield a little bit more.
Sure.
I don't know why I want to say backcourt so much, but no, like
Until he starts passing the ball and really dominating.
floor general.
Yeah.
But no, Melvin Gordon's the flex play here for me. He's been pedestrian, but he's getting enough work that I'm comfortable with starting him.
Sure.
Especially against Baltimore. They both look gross with their yards per carry. It's just not there. But
You're hoping for a touchdown.
You're hoping for your touchdown, and Melvin's just at least getting a little bit more work.
Tyson Williams and Latavius Murray seem to be in a dead heat for who can suck the worst. But they are also the only backs that are actually in contention for the starting job right now. Really disappointing for managers who picked up Tyson with how good he looked in the first 2 weeks to see his usage absolutely fall off against Detroit last week. Only averaging 4.5 on the ground, 5 carries, 22 yards, 1 target, no catches, really did nothing for fantasy managers. Latavius Murray, on the other hand, who seems to have been in football forever, did better than him. I mean, no targets, but no targets and 1 target are basically the same thing when running backs are concerned. 7 attempts, 28 yards. Like they basically had the same exact week. So what are we doing? Like, because I think that the Ravens are too heavy of a running team to just flat out say sit them, move on. But it's tough to tell who we're picking here.
I mean, for me, it's kind of. I mean, I think the Denver, run defense is better than Baltimore's.
Yes.
So, I think again, this is
the Denver run defense. Second against the run.
If I have to pick one of them, I'm picking none of them, and I'm just sitting both of them.
So you start Ravens running back 1?
Lamar Jackson. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually crazy. This game is such a great mirror. Like the running backs for the Broncos are getting actual running back work, but they're not doing anything with it.
They suck.
And then the Ravens running backs are getting nothing, but they're at least getting 4 yards per carry.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm sitting both of them. They're not getting enough use. I need to see somebody break out here, and Denver's just good against the run. There's nothing that's really shiny. Yes, they run the ball up, but Lamar Jackson takes too much. I cannot in good conscience recommend someone start either of these backs.
Okay, fair enough. Let's jump to the night game here in a game that is going to have me pulling my eyeballs out because I would love to see Mac Jones go out there and drop 40 on Tom Brady, but it's probably not going to happen. Maybe a 1% chance. Tampa Bay Buccaneers are coming to Foxborough. 49-point total in this game. It was sitting at 6.5 earlier. It's back to 7. The Patriots are 7-point home dogs in what feels like a little bit of a light total.
Yeah.
Because this, as we saw with the Bears last week, a good defense can still get trounced if they're always on the field. And I kind of not even because I think Mac Jones is going to turn the ball over a lot in this game. I see a lot of punts in the Patriots' future in this game. Tampa Bay Buccaneers side of the ball, Tom Brady, obviously, instant start. You sit their running back room. You start all of their wide receivers in Gronk. 49-point total. Most of the points are going towards the Bucs. All 4 of them are in play, right? In a game where Brady might throw 12 touchdowns.
Yeah, it's
obviously that's exaggeration, but
yeah.
He's not going to throw 12 touchdowns, Frankie. He might throw 6.
I'm not going to make another degenerate jersey bet.
Do it.
Yeah.
So, honestly, with this one, the way I look at it, Brady has turned into this season feels like his stat padding year. He's really trying to flush out those stats, and
he wants the touchdown record that Manning took from him.
He wants the touchdown record. He wants the yardage record. He wants to pad the wins, and on top of that, this is the only chance he's probably going to get a win against the Patriots. He wants this. He's going to ball out. It doesn't matter how good Bill Belichick is against young quarterbacks like him. He's going to ball. But honestly, Antonio Brown's probably a sit for me in this one.
I'm actually curious what Bill's record is against quarterbacks older than 40.
Has he played any?
I mean,
Big Ben's the closest.
I believe Bill Belichick was in the league when they first invented football, so probably. But
no, I mean, like I said, I think Godwin and Evans will be here. The Patriots, like I said, their secondary is at least solid. And I think Brady's going to be able to pick that apart using Godwin. Godwin's one of my favorite plays here. Evans, like I said, he has touchdown upside, and I think he's going to be able to bully around.
He's tough to sit.
He's tough to sit. But Brown, he's making his way back from COVID. We don't know how it's affected him. And like I said, this just doesn't feel like a game where there's going to be enough going around because I think Brady's going to ram it up.
Speaking of the Tom Brady and Gronkowski revenge tour narrative, though, it's also an Antonio Brown revenge game.
I don't know how much that counts, but yes, technically.
Patriots side of the ball, Mac Jones to sit here. What do we do with Damian Harris in this game? Obviously, his usage has been fluky lately, but the Patriots offense has been fluky lately. Now, no James White. Ramondre Stevenson, I don't believe, was active last week. He was a fairly highly drafted running back in a, as you like to say, Vitali, a very shallow position.
I like Damian Harris this week.
You like him?
Based on what I saw with Sonny Michel last week against this Bucs team, I wouldn't. Okay,
that Rams offensive line is really good.
Let me put it this way. I don't like him, but I'll start him.
No. Do not start him. Find something to go over him. Just because, think about it. He had 2 cake matchups: Miami and the Jets. Both teams you can run on. He had 53 and then a 41% snap percentage. His carries are going down. James White went out of the game, and he still couldn't produce anything. I understand that they were the turn of the ball over and they were behind, so they had to throw. But that's gonna be the game script for this one. They're gonna be behind. They're gonna turn the ball over. They're gonna need to throw, and clearly that doesn't spell fantasy.
So I will say this: it does sound like the Patriots are optimistic that Trent Brown is going to be back for this game. and he is very clearly the anchor for this offensive line. Does that improve your opinion of Damian Harris at all?
Not really. Like I said, I understand he's a great player and he really is an anchor for this offensive line, but can we, if you look at last week's game, do you think it's really going to be much different? Turnovers, having to throw a lot, they're going to abandon the run. Like that's how they're going to have to play because the Bucs are that much better than them on defense and on offense. So the Bucs are going to be able to control the ball, control the clock, and Damian Harris is going to be the one that suffers.
Patriots tight ends, we're just gonna skip those because you're sitting both of them. I was unfortunately wrong about Jonnu. He has not looked great so far this year.
He's not having the hands he should. No.
Yeah, including what was I believe a pirouette throw to the defense last week. Jacoby Myers and Nelson Aguilar, on the other hand, and Kendrick Bourne for that matter, they've all flashed at different points this season. Kendrick Bourne last week. Tampa Bay is 6th against the. I'm sorry, there are. Actually, they're fairly poor against the run. Well, Tampa Bay is, I guess, first and foremost a running defense, but against the pass they are 31st. Are we trusting any of these in what is going to be a passing game script? Are we trusting any of these Patriots receivers in this game?
So,
and if so, which one?
I
think it is one.
I wouldn't say I trust these Patriots receivers because
trust might be the wrong word. Are you starting any of them?
Look at who Tampa Bay has played, and look at that ranking. They played the Rams, they played the Cowboys, they played the Falcons, all of which, debatably Matt Ryan, are better quarterbacks than Mac Jones, all with better receiving cores, and that is why I don't really like the seasonal ranking numbers this early in the season, anyways. Because it's too skewed if, this is the situation that we're in. So, just looking at that, if I have to pick one, it's probably going to be Myers. And I don't have super high hopes, but I think if there's one receiver who's going to get it done on the Patriots, it's going to be him. But again, they played much better quarterbacks with much better receiving cores.
I mean, it might be skewed, but if you are almost dead last at the position, even if it's skewed, it's not skewed by that much. These are all professional. These are all professional teams. We're not talking about the Houston Texans here. We're not talking about the New York Jets here. Maybe they're 21st, not 31st, but they're not a top half passing defense.
I said I agree with a lot with what Frankie was saying, just because they said Dallas and the Rams are amazing pass offenses. But yes, Jacoby Myers is a flex start for me. I think he will garner enough targets and enough work that he should be a flex.
Okay. And then the Monday night game, Las Vegas Raiders are going to face the Los Angeles Chargers in a surprisingly tight game here. We're looking at a 3.5 point spread, 52-point total in this one. Raiders are honestly, I am kind of surprised about this given how well the Raiders have played. The Raiders aren't favored in this game. What are we kind of expecting from this game? I really like Derek Carr as a streaming play this week. I think that with this total come out with how he's been playing, he's probably my second favorite option on the week behind Kirk Cousins. Obviously, you're starting Justin Herbert if he's available for the start. Are you guys in the same camp? Are you guys still interested in Derek Carr this week as a streamer?
Yeah. Just based on the Chiefs game between the Chargers, they're just a really good offense, and now that Mike Williams is kind of coming into his own, I think that Herbert has more to work with now.
Sure.
Derek Carr, I think again he's been playing really well.
Yep.
And he's always been a good fantasy quarterback, but this Chargers defense is susceptible to running, passing, whatever. They're still good, but they do let up points, so I like him.
Austin Eckler's a start. Josh Jacobs is, I expect, not playing again this week. He did return to practice today, but only in a limited fashion. Peyton Barber looked, to his credit, good last week. I could see them just giving Josh Jacobs another week off and rolling Peyton Barber out there again. Let's pretend that's the situation. Monday night, because likely you're going to have to choose on Sunday morning. So let's say Sunday morning, are you starting Peyton Barber as a running back 2 or flex?
I'll start him with. So if Josh Jacobs isn't playing,
we're not going to know Sunday morning.
So then he's probably on my bench. Because I'm not going to roll the dice if Josh Jacobs is playing, and
unless the Raiders are very kind and they rule him out on Friday.
I know, because you know Josh Jacobs isn't going to tell us.
Yeah,
but no, if we don't know by Sunday morning, he's on the bench.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the only reason I start Peyton Barber is because I'm also the person who owns Josh Jacobs, so I can flip them if if Josh starts.
Yeah, hopefully you ended up in that situation if you're a Josh Jacobs manager, because that is the ideal situation to be in.
Yeah.
Especially against the 28th against the run Los Angeles Chargers. Wide receivers here: Mike Williams a start, Keenan Allen is a start. Henry Ruggs, Hunter Renfrow, Bryan Edwards. Who amongst that crowd are you guys looking at here against the third against the pass Los Angeles Chargers?
For me, even though I like Bryan Edwards, I don't really trust he's going to have a lot of upside here. I think it's going to be a Ruggs day because, I mean, just the type of player that he is.
What about a Carpets day?
He's going to be running a lot of those snaps out of the slot, and he's going to be coming across the middle of the field, which is, I mean, we've already seen him do it this year a couple times where he's gotten those big plays.
Yeah, Ruggs looked all right this season.
Yeah, but I just don't trust Hunter Renfrow.
You don't?
No.
Why?
I mean, he's not as dynamic of a receiver as those other two. Like Ruggs, obviously, he has that burning speed. Edwards is, the big body on the outside. And if I have to trust, because I trust Ruggs, if I'm trusting Renfrow or, Edwards to get it done, it's going to be Edwards.
But Hunter Renfrow kind of looks like Derek Carr.
Vitali, what's your take here?
This is a tough one to call. I think it's going to be a pace-up game, so I am willing to flex. Just because of his work, I don't love his snap percentage, but I'd probably, just because he has been getting targets, Hunter Renfrow probably makes it into a low flex for me.
Yep.
Whereas I do like Ruggs a little bit more, just because, like I said, I think they're going to need to throw, so I think more people than just Darren Waller are going to get targets here.
Yeah. I think all three of them are in flex consideration for me. With a total like this, and with how much they've been spreading around the ball in that wide receiver room, sure. If none of them are high priority flexes, but if you need to roll one of them out there, fine. They're all going to get some looks in this game. And then Darren Waller is obviously an auto start. He has absolutely collapsed in fantasy value after his 19 target week 1. He's only been getting 7 a game. Yet, even with that, I think you can trust him as your tight end in this matchup. Other side of the ball, Jared Cook's been kind of disappointing the last couple of weeks. Are we trusting him here?
No.
Nope.
I'm not. They're just not using the position. With how bad tight end is, I'd rather just shoot for somebody who's at least getting a little bit more work, so I have a better chance of getting a touchdown.
Okay. I would start Jared Cook in this one just because I think that, kind of like how I said with the Raiders receivers, it's a fast enough pace game that some targets will go his way. You just need him to stand there and catch one in the end zone, and tight end is a wasteland. If he gets 4 balls and one of them is a touchdown, he ends with the old Jason Witten 44 for 46 and a touchdown line. You're happy with that.
So just to kind of swap the role a little bit on you.
Sure.
Frank, you can jump in on this one. Are you starting Jared Cook or are you starting Hooper?
Jared Cook.
Okay. The other one I saw that I think is in the same-ish range, Dawson Knox.
That was going to be mine.
Or Jared Cook.
I'd probably take Dawson Knox over Jared Cook, just because I think they fill a very similar role. We're just kind of hoping for a couple targets, and one of them's in the end zone. So I'll take the one in what I believe is the better offense.
Fair.
All right. Well, that'll do it for us here today. Join us next week as we bring you guys the aftermath of this Week 4 slate and talk about some waiver ads and all that good stuff. Hopefully there's some actually good ones to mention this week, because the waiver wire has been poop for a couple weeks straight now. So hopefully there's a couple good breakout guys that aren't breaking out because of injury that we can talk about on our next episode. And I hope all of you, except for Garrett, win this weekend.